All right. Good morning, everybody. We got a short attendance today, but for everybody, this is the CAPN community office hours on September 21st. As always, this is recorded to YouTube, so don't do anything you wouldn't want posted to the whole entire world to see and hear and be able to talk about. And that'll get us started. We don't have those two pieces on the agenda, but we basically wanted to talk about Faye.
Two things, because firstly is the VC Manager HA. I think that affects almost everybody if they want to use a controller to manage their Intel thing. There is a little bit of history behind this. We were building Intel project about 2 years ago. So by that time, certain manager is still not a convention to manage everything. So we do the third management by themselves. So we build VC Manager starts from the scratch, and we support single instances, single instance in the beginning. But nowadays, as people try to use the VC Manager in production, they come to a question whether they can maintain multiple copies of a controller. We have a dilemma. As a difficulty here is the VC Manager also serves as a webhook server for all the webhooks of the VC object. We need to figure out how to deal with the certification. We were testing using single instance, so using the self-signed certification kind of worked for that. But I kind of realized it probably won't work with multiple instances. There are some tries, and there is guys from our team, so I asked him to try the fix from IBM, but I was asking one of my teammates to try work and figure out, and the webhook, the certification may be okay, but the endpoint is kind of screwed up with the service. You have to specify exactly endpoint instead of the label sector, which seems to be hacky. So we need to come with a strategy, how to deal with that. So what do you think, Chris? I know long-term wise, certain manager should be the direction to deal with that, but I don't know. I don't have the experience of dealing with that. I mean, sure. I haven't tried that.
So it's super easy. I mean, if we want to do this, what I would say is like the feedback that I gave. I forget who that is that's actually working on that, but the feedback that I gave Vincent in there is basically go and take scaffold a cube builder project out of the box. I know this is like a very hackish way of doing it, but scaffold that and then check out the differences between the config directory in the scaffolded versus what's in VC. And then on top of that, the way that it gets set up is for the config directory for VC, we can switch it over to using within customize, it'll auto inject the bits that it needs to auto mount certs into the webhook, grab the proper CA bundle. It'll do all of the configuration for you through customize. And so there's really no change to the application code other than stopping auto deploy the validating admission webhook. And so in essence, the webhook gets deployed when the code gets deployed through the manifest files, which is kind of how the way that the webhooks were meant to be deployed anyways. What that does for us, though, is it allows us, or I don't know if you're using or how you do certificate management. Excuse me, how you do certificate management, but for us, we don't use Cert Manager for our actual provisioning, and we have a separate system that we go and we request certs, and then we would mount them into a secret, and then we would just in essence deploy manually our validating admission webhook. And so we would configure the CA bundle and deploy that separately, just like what Cert Manager does automated for you. And so for the first run, nobody has to think about it, just want to test it, doing self-signed certs. It's really easy because you deploy Cert Manager and then you deploy based on the customized manifests that are in the project. And it will just it'll set everything up for you. It'll deploy the cert, it'll create it, it'll mount it, it'll do everything.
I'm just curious, so if you think everything is automatic, how does Cert Manager figure out how many instances? How does it do that?
So what it does is it basically, I'll show you how it all is configured, because we have this in CAPN right now. Let me share my screen. All right, so anyway, so this will basically show, so now we've got the CapN repo. Thanks for calling that out, because y'all would have been looking at the wrong thing for a while there. Okay, so if we go in here, we can go look at the config directory. If you go into default, there is this webhook patch and webhook CA injector. And so these files, in essence, with Customize, will go and grab the certificate data for you. And so when Customize, when you deploy this, you go and you change a couple flags in here. So we go over to the customization directory, and you uncomment this, which is already uncommented. So we'd have to do this in VC. So you'd uncomment the cert manager stuff. You'd uncomment those two, which is basically if you want to use cert manager and if you want to auto inject the CA bundle, it'll do that. And then you go and set up any of the variables to set up the service for it. And now if we go back up to the config directory, you'll see that cert manager has in here a certificate resource, and it configures the DNS records for those. So it sets up the DNS names for it. The issuer is set as a self-signed issuer. And
I think it will watch for endpoint then. So every time that they find an endpoint for the service, they will create a certificate for that.
Yep. And so this just goes and says deploy that with it. And now what ends up happening is like the entire code base gets configured for you with the webhooks as well. You'll see in here, we have the service that's already configured for it. We have the webhook configuration that goes along with it. And this gets mutated to add in, I'm trying to find there's one other piece that it does. Charles, I know you worked on some of this. Do you remember where it does the annotation adding?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
So this is, okay, here's where it grabs. So when it actually does applying of it, it automatically injects a new volume mount and the certificate from the webhook server certificate. And so the app gets bound, the app gets mounted with the certificate that's generated through Cert Manager for you. So you in essence don't have to do anything.
But how do you make sure they're different for the different instance? I don't quite understand.
You don't want them to be different. You don't want them to be different. So the idea there is when you actually use it, the API server only knows about the internal service that it's supposed to route through. So because the webhook is deployed, because the webhook is deployed with this service and configured via this, you're in essence routing over DNS. So it only needs to do a validation of the DNS of it.
Why can we do this with self-sign? But I don't, you know what I'm saying? So why we have a problem now? So we can still make the certification point to the service, right? For the self-sign. So I don't understand why our current code has problem with self-sign on them, because I thought it is because the endpoint IP is not in the certification list.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's look at that. Look at what we got going on here. This is doing that. Where do we deploy the certificate or the actual?
I think you can just watch his change and
This.
Yeah.
Okay, so potentially it's because where are we generating the actual cert that this is using? Here. So potentially we just need to use, maybe we just need to set up the SANS name that this is supposed to be associated with as the service. No, we do have the DNS records here. Potentially it does need the IPs. I mean, I think, no, because Cert Manager is not going to go and regenerate the certificates every single time. Maybe it does. Scott or Charles, you know, does Cert Manager regenerate the certs every single time an IP changes that it's supposed to be associated with? Jump out of here.
I do not believe it does.
You do not believe it does. Okay. So I'm not sure how that functions exactly. But basically we should be, how do I get out of sharing? Stop sharing. Okay. In essence, like it's supposed to be deployed that way. And that's like how all other controllers work, is using cert manager out of the box. And it's obviously doing something. Where our problem is, I don't know. Oh, actually, sorry, I do know, because we generate a CA at the same at runtime. And so each cluster has its, or each instance has its own CA. And so the cert isn't associated with a single CA that all of the pods use. So the CA bundle that's deployed to the Kube API server to do validation of the webhooks, basically do mutual TLS between them, is wrong. So one instance has a valid one, but the other two also pre-generated a certificate as well as the CA bundle, and those are wrong.
So
because there's no centralized management of the CA, and all the certificates are generated based on different CAs. That makes sense?
let me think about it.
So here, let me actually share my screen again, because that was what I missed. Sorry about that. Okay, so in here, every single time a replica of the controller gets booted, we create this CA. So replicas 1, 2, and 3 all have a new CA. Okay, and that new CA, then we generate a cert for it, a key insert, and we supply the CA bundle from one of the replicas to the Kube API server in this webhook. So in here, we supply the CA bundle for one of those 3 replicas. The other 2 have different CA bundles because they're not orchestrated out of the cluster.
So if you only have one CA, shared CA, then the problem should be gone, right?
Yes. Yep. And so in essence, that's what you're going to be doing when you do the CA in Insert Manager. Too many clicks there. Insert Manager, this certificate is going to generate an issuer out of the replicas, so out of the deployment. It's going to create a CA for self-signed, and then it's going to generate certs for that. And then all of the pods are going to use that same exact cert, and that CA bundle is then valid for everybody. So in theory, we could not generate this part. We could still allow, like, this is an alternative to going 100% cert manager based. If we wanted it to still deploy the admission web or the admission configuration, we could have that code base go and look for an issuer, generate a cert for itself, and the CA gets applied to the Kube API server, but the controller still manages the CA. But what happens there is we get into a weird area where each application still generated its own certificates instead of using a shared for them. And now it also technically can apply, if each one of those replicas all generates those, it's going to redeploy the admission webhook from each one of the configuration file for each one of those, which doesn't really work. So it's just going to be like updating 3 times, or depending on how many replicas, which isn't really necessary, I guess.
Okay, I see.
So what I would recommend is let's just go all the way, and just go the way that we would prefer it to be set up, or at least maybe that's just my preference. But I would say that this should just be 100% out of code implemented. That way, anybody could set it up however they want. So we could inject our own secret in our own CA, or our own certificate rather, and key separately, and not have to worry about the internal version clobbering what we already set up. And so that gives the onus to the operator to configure those things.
Yeah. So my preference is, I think so. I mean, I have to ask my guys if because I don't think we use so many. Anyway, I think I know for the upstream, I'm pretty open. I think cert manager can simplify a lot of things. I think their self-signed code can be gone if we do that way. Right. So For that PR, I think you asked what he's trying to do. My feeling is he probably doesn't know how to resolve the problem using Cert Manager. So
Sure. I can point, I can add some issue, or I can add some comments to that and try and help push
yeah,
in the right direction.
yeah. For upstream, I think it's okay to bring Cert Manager for this. Otherwise, it's kind of drifted a lot from the common convention now. I'm guessing people nowadays use Cert Manager for controllers, for many controllers anyway. Yeah, that's my feeling. He probably doesn't know how to resolve this using Cert Manager.
Okay, I will add comments to that and try and point him in the right direction as well. I can point him at this recording that we can talk that kind of talks through some of those things. Hopefully that will help. Yeah, hopefully that'll help. I believe we already have a lot of this set up in the config directory for VC. So it's just whether we just got to turn the flags on properly.
KPN already use this, right? KPN controller already use everything like, yeah, I think you can just point some code like KPN code.
Yeah.
Him to understand exactly how does it work. I'm guessing he probably doesn't. Yeah, I would think maybe a few coding required, but seems not. Just pure configuration thing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll add comments to that. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Charles, we probably can go through your change. So fully follow that, but maybe you can recap what you have and what kind of review help you need for them.
Just FYI, you're cutting out just a little bit. I'm not sure what you said there. Sorry.
I'm saying that now let's talk about Charles change. And just I'm sorry I didn't have time to fully follow the auto PR.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's do it. Charles, you want to take it over?
Yeah, so I have finished most of the implementation, and but this morning when I try to rerun it, it's broken because Cappy just have a new release, maybe like yesterday, and it looks like there is some version contract thing. I'm not familiar with that part, but it looks like we do not add the V1 beta 1 and reference to the V1 alpha 4, and that caused the Kappan does not work with Cappy for now. And I just take some time to debug this morning, so have not wrapped up the whole PR yet, because I was trying to solve the problem, the Docker image problem, because we wanted to run a kubeadmin, and then a kubeadmin will generate a file, but we were using the distro-less static, and that one have some permission problem. We cannot create a new file, so I switch it to Ubuntu, and Chris point me that we can use the dabbing instead. They have a basic dabbing image. I was trying to do that, but I encountered no problem. But for now, I think I temporarily fix it, but I'm not sure if that is correct. So yeah, since Scott is here as well, so I think we can discuss this a little bit. Do you mind if I share my screen? Okay.
Please, let me make you a host real quick, or a co-host. Give me one second. All right, you are good to go.
Okay. So, yeah. Could you see my terminal?
Yep.
Okay. So the problem I run into, I think I have fixed this one. I do not. Okay. So actually we have something like this. Let me see where. So I manually add this part. I don't know how this part works in Cappy, but obviously if I do not have this part, the highlight parts, then we are not able to create the new Kappan object. I think this one broken since last Friday, or no, since yesterday. And I checked the error message and I just manually added here.
Oh.
And I'm not sure how this part works. Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. So I'll point you in a direction on this. Did you already find the doc about this? For doing like the conversion?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's like a cluster cuddle document, which is why the other ones are in there. I forgot that we are starting to upgrade CAPI's or CAPI core APIs to V1 Beta 1. So basically, I'll put a link in the notes about this, but there's a whole doc on the conventions for making it that Cluster Cuddle will work with your provider. And in essence, you just need to tell it what API the conversion is from. So if it's CAPI V1 Beta 1, the cluster resource V1 Beta 1 needs to look up our version of V1 Alpha 4. So it's defining the conversions for us. But I'll drop a link in there for you to get more information.
I see. So the key of the label is yes.
This also may change soon. There's talk right now, Fabrizio. There's a thread on the Cluster API Slack channel on this, where they're talking about how to have Cluster Cuddle deal with the changes with the API moving to V1 Beta 1, which is going to be in October. But currently this is needed to be added since the release that Vince did yesterday. But hopefully, it should be clear and there will be better documentation in the next few days once, that gets decided on. There's currently talk if providers are going to need to update their API versions to V1 Beta 1 as well, or if they can still stay on Alpha and what the contract there is going to be. So it's not 100% clear yet, but this is at least in the latest release, which is going to be the last major release, I guess, in V1 Alpha 4 before the change to V1 Beta 1 before KubeCon.
I see. Got you. So yeah, so for now, I just changed the customized file. I'm not sure if that is the right way to fix the problem. But for now, I just manually add this part. I'm not sure if that is the right way. Yeah.
You got it. That's the way that everybody else has been doing it. And that's why, that's how the other ones are implemented.
Really? You have to do it manually?
Well, just manually in here. Customize will auto add them to all, like when you do the common labels, it'll automatically add those to all the resources. So you just have to add it once for each API that CAPI implements.
Okay. And besides from that, I think that is the only two issues I run into, and I will try to wrap it up today. Yeah, and then I think we should be okay for the the PR. Yeah.
Nice. This is awesome. Yeah, I got a chance to review it myself, and it looked really good. It was my only comment was the distro list change, just to kind of keep ourselves aligned. I also don't know what'll happen if there's restrictions from like PROW installing anything. I haven't tried, so I don't know. Just throwing that out there. That was like my hidden concern there is like if it's a non-known about image from the PROW side of things, I don't know if they try and reject it, just to keep everybody safe within the community. So just to be clear, what about the improvement PR? I saw there were some comments there that I'm not sure if we're fully addressed yet. I haven't got it actually. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have not addressed the comments. I will try to address today, maybe, or tomorrow after I wrap up this PR. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you so much.
It's okay.
Yeah, for some background, so for this one, so you're saying that every people that want to join CAPI use CAPI capability, you need to specify your CRDs and provide those labels. Is this a convention?
Just the provider does it. Us as the provider, we do it.
I don't quite understand why they put the labels in the CRD. I don't quite understand how this was designed this way. So explain.
Yeah, so the underlying architecture is CAPI will list the CRDs that are in your cluster so that what it can do is right now when you apply a cluster CR, that's a CAPI type, not a CAPN type. And so they need to know how to convert, because in there you declare the infrastructure ref and you declare a machine ref and like a bunch of other components, right? All of those need from the cluster controller, it needs to know what version of your provider API it's supposed to use. So, because we can technically support multiple versions. So they're going to move to V1 Beta 1, but we're still in an alpha API. And so when we declare the reference to it, they need to know that they're doing a V1 beta 1 to a V1 alpha 4 of our API, for example. And so this is just, they list the CRD, then they know what version it's supposed to be supported across for the actual conversion. So it can actually go and grab any of the references it needs for things like the control plane endpoint and so on and so forth.
So then if you just look at the screen, so we have 3 lines. So what if the class controller understand this? So are we on beta 1? And we
no, we're V1 alpha 4, and they support, so CAPI supports V1 alpha 3, V1 alpha 4, and V1 beta 1. And so it's the cluster version V1 beta 1 for them converting that to our V1 alpha 4. And it's cluster V1 alpha 4 converts to V1 alpha 4 of our API. And same thing with V1 alpha 3 to V1 alpha 4 of our API.
Oh, so these 3 versions are CAPI supported versions. So we are not specifying our versions, right? Our version, our version
is the value of the label.
Okay.
So when we start to convert our APIs over to V1 beta 1, for example, we will have another line in here. We'll have line 29, and line 29 will say cluster, or actually, yeah, well, likely we will change actually to cluster or line 28 to say V1 beta 1. When we finally replatform ours to support multi-API and say, yeah, so now the V1 beta 1s convert to our V1 beta 1, for example, but right now we only support V1 alpha 4.
Okay, so key is what they support. The value is what we want this to convert to. So we want to convert it into V1 alpha 4. Okay, I got it.
And I am, as we speak, dropping in the doc for the definition behind this. There's a whole page on the contract version labels, and it talks about why it's supposed to be there and all that stuff. So pretty much what we just talked about. It's in the agenda doc.
Is this the conversion way we do that? I think Kubernetes, when we do version upgrade, we don't do this way, right?
Correct. We will still use the typical Kubernetes version conversion API to do the actual CRD conversions. Yeah. This is purely for cluster API to know what it's supposed to be using from an API standard for the provider. So, because it's going to do a conversion inside. So, for example, we're in a different case, but like if you went to go and look at, let's see, I think Kappa has some of this defined a little bit better than us. But if we go look at, you go look at, this is, what file is this again? This is in the config default customization. No. What file is this in, Charles?
I'm sorry, didn't get it. Everyone just quit.
Wait. Yeah, we just lost Faye. Fortunately, I have to drop. Okay. Okay, Faye's back. What file is this that you're actually looking at? I forgot what customization file this is.
Let me check. Config CRD customization.
Gotcha. Okay. So config customization. So if you go and look at, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. Faye, if you go look at this, or actually here, I'll just share my screen so that you can all see instead. All right, so if you check out this is Kappa, yeah, Kappa. So this is like AWS's provider. So they're a little bit different. So they actually, because we only have one single API exposed, we only have V1 alpha 4. Ours says V1 alpha 4 here, because at the time when we started developing this, CAPI was V1 alpha 3, but we were developing on their new API. And so Kappa is a little different. They already had V1 alpha 3 and they had API parity with CAPI. And so they exposed the cluster API version for them, V1 alpha 3 would convert for them naturally to a V1 alpha 3 API. And for us, or for their V1 alpha 4, they have V1 alpha 4 defined as well. Eventually they'll add cluster x.ks.o/V1 alpha or V1 beta 1, and they'll do a new API that they implement to support this. So we're just a little bit weird because we only we started at V1 Alpha 4, which is the most recent besides the new beta one that just came out. So, and this is the doc that I was telling you about. This is specific to like V1 Alpha 1, V1 Alpha 2 to V1 Alpha 3, but it in essence implements it's the same sort of design. So the idea here of this is this label allows it to perform automatic conversions for object references. Make sense? Cool. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. This sounds fantastic. Sounds like you're making good progress. Charles, do you need anything?
Yep. I do not need anything for now. Yeah, but
Cool.
we can discuss the next step after this PR is merged. Yeah, I think because we are going to have a big change. We're going to using a nested machine controller to replace all this nested component controller. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be the big next step. Okay, that's awesome. I love it. This is fantastic. Do we have anything else we want to talk about? Faye, you're
That's all
muted
from my
right now.
side.
Awesome. I think when you joined again, you were muted. Yeah, there you go.
I don't have, so anything else you want to talk? I'm okay.
I'm good for right now. I'm trying to get back into this a little bit. I've obviously been a little bit out of the loop for some weeks, so I'm trying to get back into this as quick as I can.